Hey, Bev.
Hey, Sam. And it looks like we got a whole crowd of people in here.
It looks like
What happened?
you left the back door open again, and like 30 people
Except
walked
I must have
in.
left it open really wide. So, who all do we have here, Sam?
So we have the Grubbly Farms crew on with us today: Sean, Patrick, and Haley. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Welcome.
we're so excited.
This is so exciting.
Yes, our listeners may or may not have heard some of our. Ooh, I like that sound.
Oh, yeah.
Good sound right there.
Yes.
It's
So-
like my favorite way to start a podcast.
I've already been sipping on mine, so I didn't have a sound effect today. But, Bev, what are you drinking over there?
So, I grabbed a Tall Grass Brewing Company Blueberry Lemon Ale, and it's a session sour ale, and it totally just tastes like boozy lemonade,
Oh,
which is perfect.
yummy. And I have a Not Your Father's Fruit Punch, and it's quite delicious. It tastes like my childhood, but a little naughtier. So that's what I'm drinking today. Grubbly Farms crew, do you want to introduce yourselves individually and tell us if you're drinking anything fun?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Sean Warner, and right now I am drinking on a budget with a nice Tallboy Coors Light,
Woohoo!
keeping it as cold as the Rockies.
Nice. Does it have those blue mountains on it so
Of
that you know
course.
when it's time for a new one? Good.
And they are blue, so that's the good part about it. Cold beer after a hot day.
Well, we work too hard to drink warm beer.
That's true.
Very true.
So, I'm Patrick, co-founder with Sean, and I'm sipping on a Sprite from McDonald's.
That is
Oh.
that is very specific. I appreciate that. I'm glad somebody's
Yes,
being
yes, we
responsible
definitely
over
needed
there
that.
to keep everyone in line. So that's good.
Cough, cough on the responsible part.
Yeah, and the reason for Sprite is because I had 8 or 9 different beers last night, ranging from Sweetwater to Terrapin to Scofflaw.
So you were just really ahead of the game, is what you were saying.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay,
I prepared
okay.
prepared last night. I was studying for this.
You guys are in Georgia, right? I heard Sweetwater Brewing.
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I have one of my friends from Alabama brought me some Sweetwater beer, and it was super good.
It is a very good brewery to have around.
So I can see why you had too many. That's easy.
We're surrounded by breweries.
Yes, we are.
I really had to pronounce that one. I'm only 2 sips in. So I am drinking, I'm Haley, and I market for Grubbly Farms. And I'm drinking a very fine, pink, delicate Coors Light. I'm drinking what Sean's drinking. And truth be told, guys, I took a sip of my wine and I spit it out. Poured it out. I really want to be a Chardonnay drinker, but I'm not. I can't do
Chardonnays
it.
can be a little rough.
Yeah.
They can be very buttery or very oaky. I prefer an unoaked Chardonnay, so I'm very picky about them because, yeah, otherwise I just want to spit it out. Yeah, don't blame me
Yeah,
there.
it kind of tastes like you just like popped the cork in your mouth sometimes, and you're like,
Ooh,
ew.
yeah. Yeah, ew is right. So we're so excited to have you guys on. Do you want to give us a little overview and background of how Grubbly Farms started?
Yeah, so Patrick and I started Grubbly Farms about 3.5 years ago in January 2015 by, oddly enough, actually breeding flies in our college laundry room.
Oh gosh.
And it wasn't just the pizza on the ground. We were actually trying to do it on purpose. But we hung up mosquito netting in our laundry room, started experimenting with different light sources to actually encourage mating in an indoor environment. And the reasoning behind that was actually because we wanted to create a burger patty out of insects that we could sell in Southeast Asia or Africa as the westernized version of what about 2 billion people eat daily. And We actually blended the larva, mixed it with black beans, and baked it. And truth be told, it was pretty disgusting. But I think a chef could have spiced it up a bit. But with that, we kind of fell in love with the overarching concept of what we're doing and really dove into it head first.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so awesome. So I just have to clear this up. Was it your own laundry room, or did
Yes.
other people in your dorm have to come in and do their laundry with black soldier?
No, it was our private laundry room. And one mishap we did have was when an HVAC crew came over to inspect it. We obviously didn't want our landlord knowing about this, so we tore the whole breeding unit down, threw it out on the porch, covered it with a tarp, and as soon as the HVAC inspectors left, we set the whole thing back up again. So I don't know if they ever found out, but luckily no one else had to deal with it. It was just us two.
So weird. The same thing happened to me at SMU.
Oh my goodness.
Just kidding. No, I was just kidding. I did not
I was like...
breed flies.
All right. So I
Good
saw...
joke, Haley.
I'm just picturing what my college days were like compared to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, my college experience sounds way different than your guys's too. At least you guys kind of utilized your laundry room, I suppose. But I saw on the website that you guys, the whole laundry room thing, but I had no idea that the original intent of Grubbly Farms was to create a food product for human beings. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, again, that was kind of the initial thought process, but when we started going through the customer discovery phase, we basically kind of came to the realization that Western society still has a stigma against insects, and with that, we decided to target the animal feed consumption market rather than human consumption. We just believed that they would be faster early adopters.
No, that's really fascinating.
So that's super interesting that you started in the food realm, because lately, like just the last month or so, I've seen a lot of marketing for like cricket flour so that people can have like a protein-based, like gluten-free flour to like bake with. And I saw it and I was like, oh no, I would never ever use cricket flour. But apparently like people are saying that it tastes just fine. So
I've had a couple products with cricket flour in it, and I honestly think they taste fine. There is a slight texture to it, but when they powderize it and put it into kind of like that flour-like form, it's pretty easy to mix into foods that I would say the average person wouldn't even know that they're eating crickets.
Huh.
So neat. So maybe Grubbly Farms will get into that eventually someday.
Yeah, you never know.
Maybe.
So have you each tried one of your Grubblies then? Have you all eaten at least one of them in some way, shape, or form?
Oh yeah. Well, so like Sean said, we made a burger patty out of them, which
Right.
is pretty bad. So we ate it then. We make every new employee try the grubs at least once.
On their first day.
Yep. So Haley had to do that on her first day. Sean and I do that quite often at like trade shows just to gross people out. And then Sean is brave enough to eat one of the live grubs, but I have not and probably will not do that.
They're not that bad.
Yeah, I personally have not tried the Grubblies myself, but obviously my chickens and my ducks and even my goats were fans of them. So
It's good to hear.
Yeah.
It tastes like sunflower seeds.
It's
Really?
like an earthy sunflower seed with a slight interesting texture. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like they actually have a little peanutty flavor to them.
Oh.
So
Well,
I was just going to ask, so when you make people try them, you make them try them plain, like just pop one in your mouth and chew it and go?
At least for the dried ones, generally speaking. We actually have made some of them with chili powder and like garlic salt, which being completely honest, they were actually pretty good, but I would never sit there and snack on them because I would be judged way too hard.
oh, that's funny.
And on that, when we were actually going through the New York City Techstars Accelerator, there was another startup company from a number of the members were from France, And we actually had offered people to try Grubblies, and one guy liked them so much that we just gave him a full pound of them, and he would literally just sit there at his desk and just kind of snack on them while working. And we thought it was hilarious, but there was nothing wrong with it.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that you guys produce them in like a clean and food safe environment. So like they're not going to get anything weird from them or anything. Because I mean, they're good enough for our chickens to eat. So
yeah, no, that is absolutely correct. It's very similar standards to human consumption for animal consumption food. So it goes through all the exact same testing, proving the safety factor. So I mean, even though they are not meant for human consumption, they are safe to eat.
that's
Very
so awesome.
cool.
You know, maybe we need to start a hashtag for drinking Grubbly, and people can take pictures of themselves just like trying one with their chickens.
Heck, you never know.
Yeah. Hey, Bev, you get to go first on that one, okay?
And then you have to challenge someone to do it.
There we go. You have
Yes.
to tag like 10 people and
Can you guys tell us at a high level how Grubblies are made without giving away any trade secrets, obviously, but from the point of the grub rolling around wherever to where it's in the packaging?
Yeah, so the general process that Grubbly Farms is working on is we haul food waste back to our facility from different organizations and processing facilities, and the food waste is ground into a salsa-like consistency and then put in storage tanks. From there, it is actually fermented, which will drop the pH and kill any human traceable pathogens. It's then pumped into basically containers that the larvae are actually grown in. From there, they eat through the food waste. They break it down into a fertilizer, which is really just the larva poop. They're then sifted from their poop, and the fertilizer can be sold separately. The larvae then go through a oven dryer, and they're reduced down to about 10% moisture content before then they're packaged.
Oh, that's really awesome. And it's just, my chickens just have sheer happiness when they receive their Grubblies. So it's really awesome to kind of have an idea of what the process is to, just bring my chickens so much joy. Every single hashtag Grubblies happy hour. So thank you guys so much for sharing that. And it sounds like there's an environmentally positive component to your guys' mission. So do you want to expand upon that?
Sure. So one of the things that really attracted Sean and myself to this business was the whole sustainability thing, and really it came down to there's a few different aspects. One was food waste. Food waste is a huge issue in the U.S. and all across the world. The U.S. alone landfills about 50 million tons of food waste every year. And pretty much by raising the grubs, we were able to divert some of that food waste because we use that food waste as the raw material or the food for the larvae. So by diverting the food waste, we reduce food going to landfills where it breaks down and produces methane. So that was one facet that was really important to us. And then the other is when looking at animal feeds, one of the main sources of protein there is fish meal. And fish meal is, as the name suggests, a protein derived from fish, where we pretty much go into the oceans, take fish out, dry them, blend it, and then that protein goes into making different animal feeds. And the demand for fish meal has gone up so much that we're overfishing the oceans and causing pretty much devastating effects on the fish populations. And the grubs can be used as a direct replacement for fish meal. So in the future, when we look at doing animal feeds, we'll be looking at replacing fish meal and hopefully reducing the amount of overfishing that happens around the world.
That's so awesome. And, one of the things that's super cool about bug protein also is you can create a lot of it in a smaller space with way less of an environmental impact than you can like animal protein or pescatarian protein, for sure.
Exactly. And that really just comes down to how these facilities are designed out, that using stackable bins, you can grow the protein in very high density per square foot. So it's a much higher yield when compared to, example, like raising soy by the acre, or as Patrick mentioned, harvesting fish, where 10% of the ocean's catch every year are more or less derived into this fish meal ingredient, and they're generally these small schooling fish or forage fish like sardines, herring, and mackerel. So that also has a direct effect on some of the larger sport fish that would generally eat them. So there are a number of different aspects as far as where the environmental factors come into play, both on the input and the output side. But as Patrick said, that's really the concept that we fell in love with about this industry. I will say another interesting aspect of the larva is that even though we are targeting food waste in the United States, other regions of the world are actually looking into different uses. And it may seem kind of gross to us, but India is also heavily interested in the black soldier fly market to actually look at sanitation infrastructure for human waste, in the sense that about 70% of the Indian population don't have access to public restrooms. So there are, again, a number of different applications, and it's both a good and a bad thing in the sense that there's so many different avenues we can go down. It's kind of hard to say laser focus sometimes, but it's very interesting to see what other insect companies, like what side of this industry they're actively pursuing.
Well, and I mean, I can't get over the fact of how cool it is that they eat human food waste. I mean, that's like one of our number one problems that we have in this country is we throw away so much food and it ends up in landfills, and then it can't break down because landfills aren't built for composting. So it just sits there and continues rotting. And so this gives it a place to go where it can be used for something else. And I think that that's just so cool. I remember from the first time I saw your guys' packaging and read it, I was just like, yeah, this is like the only protein treat I'm buying for my chickens ever again, because it's so cool and it's so good for them.
It's great to hear.
So you guys just said a lot of sciencey stuff. What are your backgrounds? What'd you go to school for?
So this is Sean Warner. So I graduated from Georgia Tech with a degree in building construction, but I initially went into tech looking to study mechanical engineering. However, I ended up switching majors like 3 or 4 times, had no idea what I wanted to do, and eventually landed on growing bugs in a laundry room. And here we are.
Yeah, and then I went to school for business administration, and specifically looking at supply chain and operations. So that has been useful in terms of running the company, but it definitely did not lend itself to growing bugs directly. So that was all stuff that Sean and I had to learn as we went.
And what the guys won't tell you is, so they're tech grads, and we actually have 2 more engineers that work for, or 2 more Georgia Tech grads that work for Grubbly, and they're engineers. And they are rock stars, super awesome. So I essentially work with 4 incredibly awesome and bright tech grads. And what Sean and Patrick won't tell you is they were honored maybe last year on, I like to brag about them, on Forbes under 30 list. So they're
kind of a big deal. Yeah. But
Patrick's cringing right now, guys. He wishes he wasn't drinking a Sprite from, what was it, Mickey D's?
McDonald's.
So Forbes 30 under 30 list, does that mean that will they like put you on like the next like big bachelor list like in a magazine for
Oh yeah, I actually applied to that and made it to the semifinals.
So, Haley, I want to know, did you go to school for marketing, or are you just naturally this awesome? You know.
Oh, I love you, Sam. I'll remind me to talk to you about the first time I discovered you. And anyway, so I went to school. I studied a lot of marketing, but overall I graduated with a bachelor's in business administration as well. And I always knew that I loved animals. I never knew that I would discover a company like Grubbly Farms and be able to actually use my marketing skills in one of the best industries around. And I was so shocked when I found Grubbly Farms, because I'll never forget clicking on Grubbly Farms, there was a job posting, and it was for a marketing position, and I thought Grubbly Farms was some sort of Whole Foodsy farmers. I wasn't sure what I was clicking on, but I saw Grub. I had no idea it was going to be an insect company, insect protein company. And I did some research and quickly fell in love with the mission, the brand, and I got so excited about just all the different opportunities, and the rest is history. But one of the fun things, of course, has been learning all of, as you say, the sciencey stuff, and being able to communicate with all of our awesome customers and get them, or just teach them a lot about the benefits of Grubblies, while also talking about the environmental impact.
No, that's awesome. And I mean, I'll just put it out there. I have a little girl crush on Haley. Ever since I found her on the internet, I've been obsessed with her and Grubbly Farms. It's been about a year since I discovered you guys, and it's been so amazing to watch you guys grow over the past year, and to watch just kind of it catch on fire in the chicken community with the whole hashtag Grubbly's Happy Hour. And I feel like I at least see you guys, like, your product in my feed from somebody at least once a day. So it's been really cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's been one of the truly the best experiences. I couldn't imagine not being a part of this team. And when I have a girl crush on you too,
sorry
so
guys, get out of the way.
Right, so last year when
Oh, now I'm getting a little jealous. Hold on.
no, bad. So, quick story time. I don't know if the guys know this, but I had just started working for Grubbly Farms, and I was getting to know, who is our customer, who are our customers, and what are they like, what are they saying, and I discovered hashtag Sam Bolton, and I tuned in to one of your live Instagram thingies, and I had just gotten home from work, and I poured myself a glass of wine, and I just watched you, and you had Grubblies, and you started talking about Grubbly Farms, and I think I watched you for easily 30 or 40 minutes. And I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, these are what our customers are like? Like, this is who I get to communicate with every day. And I just remember being blown away about how awesome and fun and kind and hilarious people are.
Well, and it's funny, when I found Sam, it was something similar. I just was watching one of her YouTube videos, and I was like, hey, who is this, like, goofy, fun lady with, like, the pink hair? I'm like, I gotta talk to her more. How do I make her talk to me? So I started a podcast with her.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of funny on the internet. There's so many different people you can meet, and like it's just funny how certain groups of people just get automatically attracted to each other. Like it's just like a magnetism, and that's how I felt about you guys because of your mission and the thoughtfulness behind your packaging, and that you realize your customers are people and not just order numbers. Like, do you guys want to talk a little bit about the culture of your company and what it's like to work at Grubblies? Because I want to work at Grubblies. Just saying.
We have a lot of fun here. In fact, just this morning we had a war through our Grubbly team chat, sending embarrassing photos of each other through the different events that we've had.
And it lasted for like, what?
Yeah, we're
15 minutes, 20 minutes, back and forth.
Yeah, we probably sent 20 photos back, like zoomed in on people's faces, making funny. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
In general, everyone here is super passionate about what we're doing. Really excited to grow the company and really make that environmental impact, and then also provide that human touch that I think that we've done a pretty good job of doing.
Yeah, it's so crazy because being on Instagram or Facebook and actually getting to see our customers and hear their stories or see how Grubblies have helped their chickens. I mean, even recently we've heard so many stories that I'll be reading in bed at night and like actually crying because someone's talking about how much they love their chickens and how grubblies were the only thing that they'd be able to eat to help get them through. And I talk to anybody. I'm such an animal lover that I go a little crazy with it. So I get so touched by it, and that's probably one of my favorite parts is just getting to know our customers. And I've just developed so many awesome relationships with them. And our company, sorry, Patrick just pulled up one of the embarrassing photos.
I thought you were getting choked up for a second there.
That's a great example. Like,
I did too. I was like, oh no, somebody get her some tissues.
That tear away.
No, that's how it is. My first week at Grubbly Farms, I learned, here's a fun fact for you guys. Co-founders Sean Warner and Patrick Pudaliba, who are cousins, believe it or not, they know every single word to every song in the soundtrack I Moana.
God. Thank you for bringing that up, Haley.
My 6-year-old would be your guys' biggest fan, like, on the planet.
Yeah, that was right after that movie came out. We don't really have another excuse for that.
How many times have you seen it, Sean?
I think I've seen Moana 3 or 4 times, but I will say at least 2 or 3 of those were drinking games.
Sure.
On Moana, so
it's okay
totally
if you watch
fine.
it to go to sleep every night. We won't judge you.
Moana drinking games get intense.
That they do. Say another cool aspect that actually both Haley and Patrick touched on is kind of their love for animals, and I've also been very passionate about animals. I worked at a vet throughout all of high school, and I actually debated about going to school to become a vet. But one thing that we have here are some employees will bring in their dogs. We do have a pet lizard named Kurt that is very popular on social media. We also have some fish, and we're looking to continuously expand our little number of pets that can enjoy the Grubblies in-house as well. Oh, and I completely forgot about our chicken coop in the back that now we actually have a couple more little chicks that we're raising. Well, once they get a little bigger, we'll introduce them into the coop as well.
Monkey really wants to be mentioned.
Haley does have Monkey, which is a cat. Yeah, a little confusing.
Yeah, she's a cat named Monkey who thinks she's a dog, so I've really done a great job confusing my animal.
And then the next thing we're thinking about adding, it's not set in stone, but potentially getting goats for the yard that will not only act as lawnmowers, but we may potentially implement some sort of goat yoga out there, depending on people's reception to that.
And what Sean's not saying is that's going to be Sean's new best friends. He has a little husky named Loki, and I could go on and on about how much I love goats. Sam, take it away.
Well, I'm super excited for you guys to get goats. I have goats. I have totes my goats. Yeah.
And I have goats too.
Yes, I do. I do have a goat named Loki, aka Little Toot. Yes. And he is amazing, and he thinks he's best friends with Loki the dog. So they might have a little Instagram rivalry, and they just don't really know it. So, but I feel like once you guys get goats, like Bev and I mean, if you'd have us, we should just come visit and try out that goat yoga or something.
We'll let you know once it's set up and extend an invite your way.
Oh yeah, that'll be so exciting. Field trip.
Field trip. Oh, fun fact number, what are we on? 3, 4? One of our customers has become close friends to the point, in fact, you know Fallen Oak Farms? Have you guys heard of them?
Oh yeah, we know Fallen Oak Farms.
So Shelly and Brian and their kids have become so close to us. Shelly and I pretty much text every day, and we'll just call each other to chat for like an hour, and we all just love them so much. And it's so funny how relationships, or rather Instagram, can blossom into just these long-lasting relationships. And Shelly's she's like a mom to me. I call her my friend mom.
Aww.
But anyway, that made me think of it because we've already done a field trip that we classified as a work trip to go visit them twice, and they've come to Georgia. They live in Florida. They come to Georgia to visit us. So we're all about our little field trips, and I really want to get everyone to Coop Camp next year so we can all have a fun weekend where we get to know each other, because that was such a blast. In Indianapolis it was. Not Indianapolis.
Yeah, and that's not super far from me and Bev either.
Try and send them into a cook camp.
I have not.
Maybe I'll present this year.
I wouldn't mind presenting.
You should come. Can I co-present with you?
You can lead present.
Oh boy. So is there anything else you guys feel like you want our listeners to know about Grubbly Farms?
All right, I have one funny story, and this is probably one of the most awkward situations I've ever been thrown into. So we were excited enough to participate in Kairos K50, and if you're not familiar, they basically invite 50 of the most disruptive startups to a conference every year. And this was in 2015, and it was hosted out in Los Angeles at the Warner Brothers studio. And we actually flew over with some larvae. We vacuum packed them and shipped them in a suitcase. And surprisingly enough, they all survived. That being said, when we opened up these bags of vacuum packed larvae, they absolutely reeked, and terrible. And we normally have a bowl of live larvae at our booth that we can kind of just show people, and if they want to handle them, they can. But because they smelled so bad, I basically took this bowl of larvae into the bathroom and washed them to clean them, which I will say I have done before. It's not that weird. However, my genius, the thought process to dry the larvae out, I walk over with this bowl and put it underneath one of the hand dryers and turn it on, and it shoots larvae all over the floor and just everywhere. And while I'm sitting there on my hands and knees scraping this off of a bathroom floor, I think 3 different guys walked into the bathroom. One just kind of stared at me, didn't say anything, and then left. One walks in and is just like, I've seen some weird stuff in bathrooms over my life, but this has got to be the weirdest. And it ended with a janitor walking in with a broom and helping me sweep up all the larvae that I then brought back to our booth and put it in the bowl for display.
Oh my goodness, that has to be like the best larva story that I've ever heard in my entire life.
Well, I'd be curious how many larva
That's
stories.
what I was going to say. That's like my first larva story I've ever heard.
Yeah, there's
welcome.
seriously never a dull moment over here. We joke around every day. There's just something else going on. And what I just wish people know is how when they leave a comment or or send us a DM, we have a team of 6, and everyone sees what's being said, and it's just so appreciated. And it's seriously my favorite part of working here besides the animals, is just getting to know all the people and all the stories and all the fun. And gosh, Sam, your happy hours are epic, and we're always needing to, we just want to repost it all, just retweet all.
Yeah, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I am like the Oprah of Grubbly Farms. You get Grubblies, and you get Grubblies.
I will say the only other funny story from when we were still growing in our laundry room, this is when we were still figuring everything out, and an interesting fact about the larvae when they're alive is that if they're slightly wet, they can actually stick to almost any surface due to the surface tension, and it'll allow them to crawl up it. And we made the mistake of putting a lid on a container when we were first growing them, and condensation built up inside of it. And when we checked the laundry room right before we went to bed, we walked into it, and there were thousands and thousands of larvae that were crawling up our walls that had poured out of this bucket that we had to eventually go in there and clean up with a vacuum cleaner. But that looked like something straight out of a horror movie.
Oh my gosh, that's
Oh yeah.
That's pretty gross.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I will say I'm glad we ended up finding that night and not in the morning.
Oh my gosh, I bet. Oh, that would have been a nightmare the next day.
Literally.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on our podcast. It was so exciting to get to learn more about you guys and learn more about your company. One of my favorite parts about this and doing the interviews is we get to really like put personalities and voices and stories like together with the companies that we love so much to help us take care of our chickens. So thank you for coming and being on this with us.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, our pleasure.
Thank you so much, guys.
And if you guys ever happen to make a trip to Atlanta, you're always welcome here.
Oh, you just
Thank you.
just
That'll be
opened a
so
can of
exciting.
worms.
And in fact, I mean, someday, well, I sent Haley a thing that said someday we were going to have a fancy stew.
Yes. Or we'll all party at Fallen Oak Farms.
We
would love to.
That would also be more than fine.
We just
with us.
invited ourselves. So there we go.
And they don't even know it.
Well, I think that she's actually invited us before. So, yeah, we'll be sure and tag her in this when we post it.
Yes.
Shelly's so
Hi,
sweet.
Shelly. We love you.
Thanks for listening to this episode, Drink and Grubbly. We're so excited that we got to get to know the Grubbly crew a little better and know a little bit more about this awesome, nutritious snack for our chickens. If you haven't yet, head on over to grubblyfarms.com. You can get 20% off your first order of Grubblies using code WINE20, and we'll have all that information in the show notes for you. And when you subscribe and have Grubblies automatically shipped to you every month, you save 10% every month, which is super awesome. The show notes will have all of their social media info in it. And don't forget, when you do a Grubblies happy hour with your flock, go ahead and hashtag that Grubblies happy hour. The crew really enjoys seeing them.